Believe me, Pod 98 WPG, Charlotte's #1 for blazing hip-hop and R&B. No Living Larry, the morning Maddhouse. High today in the Queen City is going to be right near 78. We're dealing with this rain today. And here in Charlotte, America, and around America, period, we're dealing with killings of unarmed black men. Just crazy. Latest addition to the list coming out of Ferguson, Missouri. 18-year-old young man, from the details that we got from the story, he was at a store. His grandmama had just went past him. She was waiting on him to arrive to the house. And guess what? He never made it. Gunned down by the police in Ferguson, Missouri, right outside of St. Louis, 20 minutes outside of St. Louis, Missouri. And the question keeps getting raised. So what do we do? Like, what are we, not only as black men, but as black people, doing so wrong that we are getting murdered by these authoritative figures, such as police officers, security officers? Read a report yesterday that said 328 people, or African Americans, die at the hands of authoritative figures each and every year. That's about 1 every 28 hours. So what are we doing so wrong as a people that, we're the ones that end up on the wrong side of the gun?
I don't think we're doing at this point, I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I mean, obviously every race has people that do wrong. That's not exclusive to black, white, Indian, whatever. But at this point, I often, I was thinking this morning, what can we do at this point? Because it seems to be acceptable. We protest, we raise hell, it calms down for a month or two, and then they're back shooting innocent, unarmed black men or putting them in a chokehold and killing them that way. And it seems like no matter what, we can't change. This young man was supposed to start college on Monday. Today. Yeah, today. So, he obviously was trying to do his part to change the perception of young black men, and it doesn't make a difference. Do we have to put cameras on every young black male that walks around, so just in case something like this happens, there's actually footage, seeing as though the police are saying that they don't have any footage? There's, it's basically their word against ours. And for some reason, these grand juries that they convene never seem to want to indict these police officers for what they're responsible for. And
according to the police report that they're reporting out of Ferguson, Missouri, that they're saying that, he and another man got into an altercation with the officers. Somehow the officer got pushed. Somebody was reaching for the officer's gun, and shots were fired. At least one shot was fired inside of the patrol car. We do know that. They have not said how many times this young man was actually shot. Waiting on the autopsy report from that. And then that's when the police are saying that's when they're going to move forward with their investigation after the autopsy.
And I hate to say it, but I feel like, okay, they're going to investigate for what? So that they can take it to a grand jury. The grand jury is going to say, no, the officer did absolutely nothing wrong. And if there's a slim chance that they do say that the officer did something wrong, most likely the jury is not going to convict them, because this happens. This is not new. This has been happening. This keeps happening. No matter what we seem to do, it seems like it's not going to end. I don't know what we have to do. Maybe we have to go to war. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this question, but it seems like everything that we attempt to do is not working.
People are just looking at different stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. A lot of folks said, protests are not working. We need to find something up there in Missouri to boycott, because if you hurt people's pockets, then they tend to start paying attention.
I would agree with that theory, but we've done that, and look, we're still in the same place that we were. It's just more it's more systematic, and it's more hidden. We haven't come that far.
David Banner tweeted in Instagram the quote. He said, we need to start caring more. We need to start valuing ourselves more to make other people value us. Power 98, good morning.
Hey, what's going on, man? This is Easy, man. I was calling chiming on that Michael Brown murder, man.
Go ahead, big dog.
Man, it's crazy how America's getting, man, and about the police killing all these people, man, killing all the innocent black people with no guns and everything like that. I'm trying to figure out what we could do as a community to stop this.
And that's the question we're asking. I mean, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? Power 98, good morning.
Good morning to you all. My name is Amber. I'm 25 years old, and I have 2 young boys. And how I look at it is, to be honest, we as black people, we can't do anything. It's sad that racism is still going on. It's just, I try to teach my boys that to do the right thing, and I mean, you never know, the boys that's been getting killed over nonsense has been in the right place, but at the wrong time, and the officers just acting ignorant and want to just feel like they have all the authority to do what they want to do, but they're not actually taking the procedures of what they're supposed to go through. So I just feel like as black people, I don't think we can do anything, but the only thing that we can do is just stick together.
And I agree. I hate to think that we can't do anything, but I'm like, somebody please tell me what we can do, because like she said, you know, you try to teach your boys to, you know, say, I'm unarmed, officer, I'm not trying to cause any trouble, but it doesn't seem to matter. Witnesses say that this young man put his hands up in the air. I mean, what is the gesture for saying I'm unarmed? Yeah. Putting your hands up in the air.
Well, they did say the police did admit that this young man was unarmed. They're not trying to say he was armed in any type of way, but their side of the story is, you know, I'm just telling you their side of the story. Their side of the story is that somehow a physical altercation ensued, and that somebody was reaching for the officer's weapon. That's why the officer fired.
Right, and that makes sense that an 18-year-old unarmed black male who's going to college on Monday decides on that day that he's walking to his grandmother's house that this is the day that I'm going to knuck and buck the system, and I'm going to fight an officer who I know is armed for sure. I'm going to have an altercation with him because, you know what, today's a great day to do that.
Well, they said of course they're saying that he's not the only person involved. It was he and according to the report that I'm reading, it was him and some other people or another person involved in this case. More details and more your comments on the way. 570-WPG. Toll free to Cackalack 1-800-525-0098. Power 98. Power 98 WPG. Charlotte's number one for blazing hip-hop and R&B. 844, 16 minutes away from 9 o'clock. You're listening to No Limit Larry in the Morning Madhouse. High today is going to be right near 78 here in Charlotte, America. Wet streets out there. Be careful on your driving this morning. Talking about the Mike Brown situation. If you haven't heard about the case, another unarmed black man gunned down at the hands of police officers in Missouri. Actually in Ferguson, Missouri, right outside of St. Louis, about 20 minutes outside of St. Louis. So, called up one of my good friends. He worked here in Charlotte for numerous of years in the homicide side of our illustrious CMPD, but now he does his own thing. Mr. Gary McFadden, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
Now tell the folks, how long did you work in homicide here in Charlotte?
21 years. 21 years in homicide.
21 years, and one thing I like about you, Gary, like, you know, you say right is right and wrong is wrong.
That is true.
And, you know, no matter that you're a police officer or not. So looking at this case, you were definitely an advocate for the Trayvon Martin case. And several cases here in Charlotte. So, looking at this case coming out of Missouri, what is your take on it?
Well, it got a lot of questions. I don't think it's good. It's not a good shoot from the initial looking at it. You know, it's a lot of work to be done. But what we need to do is stand behind the city as a people. But what we don't do is anything after the rally, anything after the marches. And then we have in our mind, like some of the people say, well, they're not going to do anything. And that's not the correct mindset to have. We do not look at these things as a group, think tank. You know, if you think about Zimmerman, he had his people working on the case from the very beginning. And what we did is rally in the streets and march, and then we go home. Go ahead.
Let me ask you though. I mean, I'm to the point now where I'm tired of like hearing about like I was, you know, this was really hitting home because we've seen so much of this and it just keeps happening. And people say, oh, well, let's march, let's pray about it, let's do this, let's do that, but it's not working. And these young black men, they keep getting murdered like it's murdered in cold blood. And these police officers, they get off each and every time. There's no accountability. And you have somebody that may try to make them accountable, but it doesn't work. And it keeps getting thrown in our faces over and over and over again. And people say, oh, let's be peaceful and let's do all of these nice things. And it's not working. And sometimes you wonder, is it going to take a coup for it to really make a difference in this country? Because we seem to have no value. And I mean, I'm a black woman, so that's a little different, but I'm tired of seeing all these young brothers who have so much potential being murdered. It like really breaks my heart.
Well, it breaks a lot of our hearts. And I'll tell you, I went to a visual last night on Augusta Street in the crowd, and I listened to young black men cry about their loved ones. So we have to start, and I know this is a bad time to say it, but we have to start in our community. Then we show them that we value our people. We value our young men. We can't march every time a black is killed by a white. We should march when a black kills a black. Then we need to truly hold people accountable. The Reverend Al, the Reverend Jesse can't hold these people accountable. It looks good up front. We talk about it. He stands in the front and they march in the line. But what do we do after that? Then we have to hold our politicians accountable. We have to hold the community accountable. And then they'll see that, oh, these people are ready. These people are now not going to take a backseat. What did we do after Trayvon Martin? Nothing. We took the punch and we walked away. Now, there should have been a group of people coming together after Trayvon Martin, sitting down and saying, if this happens again, we're going to be better prepared for it. We weren't prepared for Trayvon Martin. We did everything while we were marching and rallying and saying all these things. They were preparing for the case.
And we still haven't gotten justice for Jonathan Farrell. I mean, there's all of these cases that just keep happening, and, it disappears, and then we're worried about the next Migos song, and we're not worried about these things that are really hurting our young. This young man was getting ready to go to college, how can we, I don't know, you've been on the side of law enforcement, but I almost wonder, do there need to be psychological tests that are applied to these officers? Maybe there are, maybe there aren't. I don't know, but it seems like no matter what we do, even if we go get ready to get a college education, we graduate high school, we do all of the right things, it does not seem to matter.
It is a sad thing. It is a very sad thing. But we need to be better prepared as a community for these events.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Gary McFadden, on from former officer at the CMPD, worked homicide here in Charlotte over 20 years, and definitely a big advocate here in Charlotte for justice in himself. Thank you, Mr. McFadden, for being with us this morning.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Charlotte's #1 for blazing hip hop and R&B. More your comments on the way about the Mike Brown. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tawanda,
Hey,
and
Tawanda.
I've been listening to the conversation. But I think it's so unfortunate. I think what happens is that the stereotype that they see, that they, meaning white officers and white authoritative figures that they see in the media, and, I think what happens is all black men get stereotyped as that thug or that criminal or that, the person who's going to run up in your house or take your, rape your daughter and all that kind of stuff. So they don't see that there are actually good black men in the community. So therefore, they have no issue with shooting them, killing them, chokeholding them to death or any of that.
I mean, I would love to agree with her, and I would love for that to be right, but our president is black. Right. Our police chief here in Charlotte is black. We have African Americans that are in the national media that are clearly visible, and it still does not make a difference. It still does not seem to be enough to stop police officers from police brutality. And when I was younger, this is exactly what I got arrested for. Many times out of the times that I got arrested was the injustice that the police have on behalf of Latinos, on behalf of African Americans, the poor people, just that authority that is abused. And I'm to the point in my life where I'm so tired of seeing this, because no matter what we do, it still happens.
And you're absolutely right. And being a black man myself, I've been through several instances with different officers, and this could have been me raising black men in this community. You talk to your sons and you tell them, when you are approached by officers, you tell them to do the right thing, but you never know how it's gonna go. And just like a caller said, it's sad that when your kids leave home, you're not sure if they're coming back. No matter what, whether they're with their friends or they're just going to the store and trying to go home to see their grandmother, you just never know. Because, we as African Americans are probably the most feared race here in America. It's sad, but it's true. Papa 98, good morning.
Yeah, well, I'm actually from the Bronx, and this has been going on for decades. Example, Amadou Diallo. All of this, what's going to happen is something's going to happen to a high-profile judge's child or a high-profile attorney's child, somebody on the Supreme Court. Something has to happen, God forbid, to their children in order for something to stop.
Yeah, and that's usually how it goes. Something happens to one of their children, and then all of a sudden it's the new Taylor Johnson law. You know what I mean? So that's how it usually goes.
And I don't condone the riots that have happened, since the peaceful vigil, but I understand when you're disenfranchised and you don't have a voice and you don't have these real meaningful ways of addressing a problem, that anger just manifests in ridiculous ways. I mean, rioting, looting is not going to accomplish anything, but I understand that they're just so frustrated that this keeps happening to us, that's the only way that they felt like they could take out some of that anger. And it's not productive, but, we have to find a productive way that we can actually truly make a difference other than just talking about it. This is great that we're talking about it, but it's not going to change or stop the next young black man from being shot when he's unarmed walking to his grandmother's house.
We got it. The officers definitely, more police forces got to get some diversity training. Reading the story about this particular police department, like 80% of the police department is all white.
I believe it.
They got to get some of our officers in there, and they got to get some diversity training all over the United States. This is just crazy. All right, more of your comments on the way. Charlotte's number one is Power 98. Power 98 WPG. Charlotte's number one for blazing hip hop and R&B. Nolan Valera, the morning Maddhouse. Yeah, talking about the Mike Brown situation. If you haven't heard about the Mike Brown case, Ferguson, Missouri, 20 minutes outside of St. Louis, a young man was actually on his way to see his grandmother, according to witnesses, and was actually gunned down by police after police say a struggle ensued and he and another man actually reached for his weapon. Now, this is where the details get sketchy and all over the place. All we do know for sure is that an unarmed 18-year-old black man was gunned down in Ferguson, Missouri. We got our very own homicide detective, former homicide detective here in Charlotte. Mr. Gary McFadden is on the line with us this morning. You've seen several of these cases develop right here in Charlotte.
Yes, I have.
And we've asked the question, what do we do? And you said, after the rally and after marching, we don't do anything. So what are some other things we may need to know when you're faced with a case like this?
Well, I mean, what you do is learn from our mistakes. We learn from what we didn't do, or we sit back and say, why did this happen? And then you can confront the people who make these judgment calls. And, this goes from not only the police department, but then the lawyers, the judges, the DA's office. We don't hold anybody accountable. We hold the police accountable the day of the incident, the day after the incident, and all during the rally. But then do we teach our children how to respond? We said put your hands up and all this and all that. But do we teach our children what information they need to gather? Mm-hmm. Secondly, and I'll say this, we have to take this thing. See, now we want snitching to vanish this day. When we come in the community to talk about the violence in the community, well, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to talk. I know that's a bad thing to say at this time, but it's true. Because the information that is gathered on the scene and provided to the police is important. We have to get out of the mindset of saying they ain't going to do nothing.
Well, let me ask you this: in a case exactly like this Mike Brown case, say that I'm a witness. What are some of the things that I need to have to tell, what are some of the things I need to write down or put in my phone, or what are some of the details I need to take with me?
And instead of you saying he was yelling, what was he yelling?
Mm-hmm.
He was screaming, what was he screaming? Was he screaming? He didn't have his hand in his pocket, but what was he doing with his hand prior to that? What was the officer doing? All these things are important, but we don't see that. We need to look at it from a whole. Come forward. Give us the information. There's somebody, we'll videotape, YouTube, everything. So if you did it, bring it to us.
Mm-hmm.
Or bring it to the department and say, here it is. Not only, like Eric Garner's case in New York where the guy definitely filmed everything, which is definitely important in the courts now, but then get that information to the police. Now, in the Eric Garner case, the person who filmed it, if we keep up with this, him and his girlfriend have been arrested on gun charges.
Wow.
So then we say, what do we do about that? He still saw what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
Credibility then, it kind of chips away with it. So then we have to be careful of what we do with that also. But we have to stand steadfast and don't let these things excite us, rally, T-shirts, and we talk about it, and then it goes away.
But who do we go to? Because, it seems like the police are going to stick together, whether they know the person's right, wrong in their heart. They're going to stick together. We don't have Black Panthers like we used to that were, our police that were there to stand up. We don't have these type of organizations and groups that are willing to really take it to the, and do what we have to do to make things happen, because it seems like you can have a video, you can take it to the police. Next thing you know, you're arrested. Your girlfriend's arrested. They're going to look for your grandma and, pull up her record. And they're doing everything that they can to intimidate. And if we're taught that if somebody is intimidating us and attacking us, we're supposed to go to the police, but the police are the ones doing it, then who do we go to?
Well, you do go to the police. Every police department has an internal affairs. But 50% of the time when things happen, it is not reported. That pattern of these officers or the patterns of these things are not documented because, JoJo tells you in the community, don't do it, don't go down there. And then all of a sudden, when it does happen, then we have people lining up saying, this officer did this to me in 1992, or he did it to me in 2000, he did it to me in 2004. But there's no pattern of behavior. So when it comes out that these officers are bad, or comes out that something is bad, then we say, well, why didn't y'all do anything about it?
Well, McFadden, let me stop you right there because we live in a big city, but and somewhat in our big city of Charlotte, we have a good old boy network too, but in those smaller towns and those smaller cities like Sanford, like this particular town, Ferguson, Missouri, as well as I know, they have a good old boy network where me and this dude grew up together. So no matter if we have an internal affairs department or not, I'm going to look out for him because that's my buddy. You know what I mean? So how do you combat that? I mean, if you got a video, do you take it to the news department? Do you take it to the NAACP? NAACP, so what do I do with it?
You're right. It is a small department, but then here's what you have to understand. You do have organizations like the NAACP and the Department of Justice. So then you go there with your evidence, not people. Please forgive me for saying it. Not people in the clergy and saying I'm going there and we want justice. We want more than this. So we want justice. What is justice? What does it look like? Then I'm bringing you this information, and you hold those people accountable, the Department of Justice, and then if the NAACP is involved, you hold them accountable. Mm-hmm. Not just say, well, write this down on a piece of paper, and then we go forward with it. There are avenues. There's the FBI, there's the Justice Department, NAACP, Al Sharpton Group, all these people, but you have to hold them accountable and have your stuff together.
Yeah, and one thing, you got to keep a copy of your evidence. You know what I mean? The original copy. You get him a copy. Don't you get him the original copy, though, because, it can be doctored and moved around. And you look all the way back to the Rodney King case. It was a video that brought that case to light way back then. So you definitely got to, and we live in a social cell phone society where almost every cell phone has video and cameras on it.
Right. But you think about the Trayvon Martin case only. His girlfriend, was she prepared for court? No. Who do we blame that on? We want to blame the courts. But we have all these people rallying, marching the mother and the father around and doing all this, but are we prepared for the battle? Are we prepared for the long haul? No. We are never. It sounds good. We feel good. We rally. We stand and talk about it. But at the end of the day, are we preparing for the long battle? And most of the time, like you said, the good old boy network or the network channel, when there's 5 or 6 people, they're prepared for that. But then when you go outside of that to the federal government, Department of Justice, and say, okay, these people are not clean.
All right. We're going to take a commercial break. Got more of your comments on the way. Charlotte's number 1. Pod 98 WPG. Charlotte's number 1 for blazing here. Bobby Don B. None of it, Larry the Morning Maddhouse. Yep, crazy day inside the Maddhouse. Charlotte, America. It is raining. It is wet today in Charlotte. Be careful on your drive in if you ain't made it in yet. Talking about the Mike Brown situation going down in Ferguson, Missouri, 20 minutes outside of St. Louis. Yep, right outside of St. Louis, Missouri. Up in Missouri, Mike Brown, 18-year-old unarmed black man, gunned down at the hands of the police in Ferguson, Missouri. Your comments. Power 98, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to comment on the Mike Brown situation.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I just wanted to say that my deepest condolences goes out to Mike Brown's family, especially his mom, and just also about the riot. I can understand the frustration. I can understand the outrage. Because we're just so tired. There's nothing more that we can do except marches. And we can bring out Sharpton, we can bring NAACP in every time an African American gets killed, but what more is there to do? And I'm just tired of this. I'm very tired of it, and we all are. And it's very disgusting, it's very disturbing, and it's very traumatizing for us all.
And I think, just in trying to figure out what we can do, more of us need to become police officers. More of us need to respond. A lot of times we see on the criminal side where they maybe will try to take it to a grand jury, and a grand jury will drop all the charges, and we need to show up for jury duty. We need to be a part of the system, because I think right now the justice system is letting us down. In addition to the enforcement side, which is the police, I think the justice system is letting us down, and we need to be more involved in that and have more control over what happens and, doing the right thing.
Power 98, good morning.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi, I want to make a comment about the Michael Brown situation.
Go ahead.
Okay, here's the situation. I really feel like we, as African Americans, need to come together at a point and start loving one another, because when the outside races see that we love each other enough to care about one another, at some point it's got to be. Oh, go ahead.
I think our phone broke
breaking up a little bit.
Thank you. We got to just see you come in. Appreciate you this morning. Power 98, good morning.
What's going on?
What's going on, big bro?
Hey, man, listen. I don't know who the brother was on the radio talking about rallies and buying T-shirts and all that. This don't make sense, man. This is one of the racist countries it is, man. Listen, why should we have to police the police? That don't make sense to me. They get paid to do their job. I don't understand why we got to go and police what they doing. And they talking about the no snitch rule, and we teach our kids not to snitch. My thing is this, listen, I just teach my kids that some things ain't none of your business. You want your kids to be grown, that you want them to be a kid at the same time. You got to be able to make decisions. So I don't understand what the about for is being steadfast, and we need to listen, who can afford to go to court when something going on? Everybody got things going on in their own personal life. We don't have time to look at the other people's problems. We shouldn't have to police the police. That ain't our job.
But here's my point. Or here's my thought to that. I think when the police are not doing their job and they're doing things such as killing unarmed black men, then I think we have to start policing the police, or else it will continue.
Right.
And then it will directly affect your household, because it will be one of your kids, it'll be one of your cousins, it'll be one of your uncles,
your neighbor. And we need to demand alternative training. Police are armed they're wearing a vest. Why is it automatic that they go to deadly force, particularly when dealing with an unarmed individual? Why automatically go to deadly force? There are other tactics that could be used if you need to subdue someone, if they were being quote unquote unruly, but they're not armed with deadly force. You know, if these things are not forced upon them, then they're going to continue to handle situations the way they have been, and it's obviously not going to end up in our favor.
Power 98, good morning. All right. Mr. McFadden, you still there? You heard what the brother had to say. You had a comment to that?
Yeah, I heard what he said, you know, and I respect his decision on that. But then his boys are children now, and when they become adults, 16, 17, driving cars, and have that confrontation or have that interaction with the police, what do you do at that point?
Yeah, and speaking of the interaction with the police, you know, because, you know, at some point in your life, you as a citizen may go through it. So what are the proper steps to take? Because my thing is what I tell my kids. I want you to make it home. I don't care how you get home. I just want you to make it home, you know. So I think that should be your thinking in any situation, but sometimes it's easier said than done when somebody is agitating the situation. So take us through the proper ways of handling a situation, Mr. Officer McFadden.
Well, I mean, first you need to be calm. And I know, be calm when you're being stopped. What happens oftentimes, please let me say not every time, but these are some scenarios that cause the police officers to think a little differently. When the blue light goes on, everybody gets scared. The blue light been on me, I get nervous. But then I don't start reaching under the seat, moving in the car. All this movement in the car causes us to say, what is going on? And when we're approaching the car, what are you doing after we're approaching the car? Hands on the steering wheel, you know, tell them if you got something in the car, like a weapon, like a gun, something, inform them. You know, not what you're stopping me for, or your partner in the car, don't jump out and then start running around the car saying, why are you stopping my boy? All of these things are factors that raises suspicion in a traffic stop. Do we know that? We should. When we say we just tell them what to do. But then after things starting to develop and it becomes a crisis, what is the passenger doing? You know, is he documenting what is happening? Is he remembering what is said? You know, oftentimes when the kids do get stopped, they run home and tell mama the police stopped them. Well, what is the police officer's name? I don't know. What is his code number, badge number? I don't know. Well, what were you doing when it happened? Be truthful. Be truthful at that point, and then go from there. If you got marijuana, it's a misdemeanor. But then what he did what the officer did could have been a felony. So then don't let the marijuana charge outweigh what happened to you.
Well, and let me tell you, I'll do it briefly about what happened to me when I was younger. And I make no secret of saying, you know, I've been arrested a number of times, and many of them had to do with disorderly conduct due to the police. I was a witness. There was a riot at the mall where I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. I was a witness. They had one of my friends on the ground in handcuffs, but were choking him with the baton. And I was watching because I said, you know, I'm going to witness this and be able to witness and say what happened. Well, me doing that, they, of course, told me I needed to leave. I refused to leave the situation, which then led to me being put in a chokehold. Then led to me being arrested, me being put in the back of a police car, locked in handcuffs in Arizona in the summertime where it was about 105 degrees, and left there with the windows rolled up. And, you know, those type of things, we say, okay, we'll document the situation. But I have been there when I've tried to document a situation and they tell you to leave so that you can't document it. And then if you do disobey their whatever they say, you end up paying for it, and you end up, you know, either possibly dead or in trouble yourself, or whatever the situation is, you know. And I know that from experience because that happened to me.
Right. So, but you believe that was wrong? Not saying that you didn't do the right thing, but where did you take that after that? And this is where the community as a whole need to step in. If this happened, why don't we have people in the community established where we go to them and say, this is what happened to me. What can we do about it? Instead of saying, well, brother, let me look into it. I'll make a phone call. Then 4 weeks later, you never get the phone call. Then you look someplace and he's running for an office, and you say, well, he didn't help me.
Right.
So then this is what I'm saying. We need to establish things in our community to better suit us. If we continue to say they're not going to do anything, I tell my kids to keep it to themselves, and all this other stuff, it is going to continue to happen as it has been.
Thank you. Thank you, Officer McFadden, for being with us today, and we appreciate it. If you got any more comments, you can leave them on our voicemail, 704-227-8780, 704-227-8780, or you can leave it on our Facebook page, Power 98 FM. Thank y'all for calling this morning. It's a crazy situation. We're going to keep you abreast of what's going on and the new details developing in the case. The next part of the case, they said that they're waiting on the autopsy report coming out of Ferguson, Missouri. Charlotte's number one for blazing hip-hop and R&B is Power 98.